Hello and welcome back to another Doctor Who figure related video. In today's Doctor Who figure related video I'll be discussing some recent figure news. Yes, today the news have dropped of the slightly tweaked, revised B&M figures, because normally the way the B&M figure sets work is we get a whole sort of wave in summer, and then around sort of February, March time we get slightly revised, slightly tweaked sets, much like the Big Finish Daleks sets from this year. So these sets are going to launch on the 5th of October 2020. And I can hear my wallet already crying, going, oh gosh, B&M figures again. So the way this video is going to work is I'm obviously going to look at each set, and then I'm going to look at each figure, what's in that set, and sort of do a comparison, what elements they've used to make this new figure, because there's been slightly retweaked and repaints. So I'll do a breakdown on that and give my thoughts on the sets themselves. So without further ado, let's just dive straight into the actual news itself. So the first set I'll be talking about is the Companions of the Fourth Doctor set. Again, so this is a slightly revised version, so we've got a revised Sarah Jane Smith, Romana 1 and Romana 2. So the Sarah Jane is based from appearance in the Monster of Paladin, which is rather fitting since this year we saw the Monster of Paladin Third Doctor and Tardis be released, so that'd be quite nice to have a season 11 Sarah Jane. And obviously we have Romana 1 from the Power of Kroll, which I have to say looks a lot better compared to the Pirate Planet one. I feel like that's probably the standout figure in that set, and obviously I'll talk about what elements they've used to create that figure later on. And obviously a lot of people have done a custom of this figure, and I bet they're kicking themselves now because we're getting a Romana 2 from the Haunted Nymon, which looks like a really good figure. So that does look like a very good set. You know, Romana 1 for me definitely looks like the standout set, so that's going to be quite cool. Again, these figure sets are priced at £19.99, so basically 20 quid. So yeah, definitely a good set, to be honest. If you missed out on the first one, I'm definitely going to pick up this one, because, you know, I feel like there's some great little variants of the Companions. So doing a figure breakdown of the Companions of the Fourth Doctor set B. So we take a look at the Sarah Jane. So the Sarah Jane figure is essentially the same Sarah Jane what we saw, using the Combat Martha top half, basically the same as Revendra Sideman one, but using the sort of Sarah Jane Adventures Sarah Jane figure legs with obviously the boots there, as you can see. So that is basically the elements what I've used to create the Sarah Jane, with slightly tweaked paint taps on the face, as you can see. So yeah, it's very cool to see that. So the Romana 2 figure is essentially the Pirate Planet Romana head put on the Sarah Jane Adventures figure body, with a new torso piece, again using the same boots legs, which is very cool, and it's nice to have a new torso piece. So I feel like this is definitely a very standout figure for the set. So yeah, it's very cool, that one, the Power of Kroll Romana. And Romana 2 is basically the Sarah Jane Adventures Kudlak figure, just repainted. It's essentially the Destiny of the Daleks Romana, just repainted in the Horns of Nymon colour scheme, which is very cool, again using the Sarah Jane Adventures figure as the base, as seen in the Warriors of Kudlak set. So yeah, so moving on to the next set, so we have basically the Friends of the 13th Doctor, containing Yaz, Ryan and Graham, so basically the fam set. So basically they've got rid of the foe. I feel like a little bit disappointed by this set, actually, personally, because I would have liked them to have included sort of a monster. I was kind of expecting them to include possibly Sacha Dhawan's master in the tuxedo, because they could use this sort of tuxedo 10 body, and then, you know, get a Sacha Dhawan head sculpt, you know, because, you know, B&M can do new head sculpts. The character options line has proven that we can get new head sculpts. So I think that would have been cool to have, like, Sacha Dhawan's master. That would have made that set very desirable. You know, maybe have put Captain Jack in there, slightly repainted Captain Jack, that would have been very cool. But instead we've got Yaz from, I believe that costume's based from, Yaz is based from Fugitive of Jadoon, so that's been slightly repainted. And Ryan, I believe, is from the Ghost Monument, and Graham is from It Takes You Away, which I have to say, I do prefer the look of that Graham. I feel like it just stands out a bit more with the brown jacket and the checkered shirt. It just seems to stand out a bit more compared to the just completely blue Graham figure what was released at the start of the year. So let's do a breakdown on that set. So taking a look at the Friends of the 13th Doctor set. So again, this is just essentially a repaint of all the figures that already exist. So basically a repainted Yaz, Ryan and Graham. And that's essentially it. That's all they've done, just retweaked it to match the costumes appeared in the Fugitive of Jadoon, the Ghost Monument and It Takes You Away. So moving on to the last triple pack, which is the 1975 unit Terror of the Zygons set. I guess this is probably the most anticipated one of the bunch, because it has a slightly new tweaked figure, which is very cool, as we've basically got Benton in new sort of camo gear as he appeared in Terror of the Zygons. We've got new gun accessories, which is very cool. It's just a repaint, which is not a bad thing because the Benton figure is amazing. But I guess the highlight of that set is not the Mike Yates figure with a mustache, but the Fourth Doctor. Now, if you've been a figure fan, you'll know that there's a famous sort of image going around of sort of prototype figures on that. And now, if you followed your figures for a long time, you'll be aware of this image. What was released back in 2012, I think it was leaked, of some figures what had some prototypes on, and the Terror of the Zygons Fourth Doctor was one of those. And it seems very cool. So it's great to see that finally be released. It's very nice to have that sort of nice Fourth Doctor oddity variant. We've got a new head sculpt and a slightly new scarf piece, which looks very cool, and slightly repainted sort of waistcoat to make it more in keeping of Terror of the Zygons. But obviously we'll do more of a breakdown on that, and it seems like they've added more detail to his trousers to give it that sort of more woolen look to it, which is very cool. And we have a sort of standard unit soldier, sort of generic unit soldier, which is basically the Mike Yates figure but with a mustache, which is quite funny really. But yeah, it's great to have a little unit soldier in there as well. So taking a look at the 1975 unit set breakdown. So if we take a look at the Benton figure, so Benton, as you can see, has just been repainted in the more khaki camo look, and obviously given the more accurate weapon, so it'd be great to see another Benton variant to go on the Fourth Doctor shelf. So we take a look at the Fourth Doctor. Again, probably the most difference you'll see is it essentially uses the sort of Sontaran experiment Fourth Doctor body, again used in the Genesis of the Daleks Toys R Us set and the Forbidden Planet exclusive, but been slightly repainted to match how he appeared in Terror of the Zygons. So he didn't wear a sort of tie or cravat, in that it was very much an open shirt, but obviously they're using the sculpt that they have, so they're basically repainted the sort of tie to match sort of his season 12 scarf in a way, and they've given sort of the sort of Prince Charles waistcoat pattern there, and obviously give him a new head and new hat. And the final figure is essentially the Mike Yates figure, but with a mustache, to act as a sort of generic unit soldier, again painted in the same livery as Sergeant Benton, and again given more accurate weapons as seen in the sort of 1970s unit stories. So yeah, that is essentially the Terror of the Zygons set. It would have been nice to have seen like a proper Harry be released, maybe sort of swap out the generic unit soldier for, you know, Harry Sullivan in his little blue jacket. So taking a look at the Tardis set. So the Tardis set is basically the Fifth Doctor from the Visitation with a clean Tardis. So this one's quite exciting actually, because obviously this is basically the Planet of Fire Fifth Doctor, but slightly repainted. The coat seems to be a bit more of a sort of a darker beige colour, which seems more accurate to how his costume was. So it seems like they've slightly tweaked that figure. So it's great for people to finally get sort of that Planet of Fire Fifth Doctor with hat. But I guess this is the main star of attractions of the TARDIS. It's basically the Kayra Androzani TARDIS, but without the mud on the base. So it's great to finally see that be released, and you can use that as a Sixth Doctor TARDIS, because I believe that the Sixth Doctor is just a bit impossible for character options to do it in a B&M budget. So I feel like this is the closest we'll see to getting a Sixth Doctor TARDIS. I mean, I could be proven wrong, but I definitely do want to get this set because I do love the look of the 80s TARDIS. So taking a look at the Fifth Doctor and TARDIS set, so again it uses the Planet of Fire Fifth Doctor, so it'd be great for people to finally get a hatted Fifth Doctor figure in his sort of season 19 and season 20 look. I believe from the pictures in the box that the jacket looks a lot more darker beige colour, seems a bit more accurate to how it appears in the actual story itself. So again, slightly retweaked Fifth Doctor. But as for the TARDIS, it's essentially the Kayra Androzani TARDIS, just without the mud on the base. It'd be great to have more of a pristine looking 80s TARDIS. So that is very cool. I do like the look of this set, and it'd be great to have a proper 80s TARDIS in full resplendent. So yeah, there we go. And the final two sets are the History of the Daleks set. So it seems like B&M are going to continue the sort of Dalek line, so we are going to see more classic Daleks, which is great. So hopefully we can see all the Dalek stories done in figure form. So the next set is basically the Chase set. So it's basically your standard Chase Dalek figure, but with the correct eye stalk. It has the Power of the Daleks eye stalk and the correct dome lights. And I believe that the hemispheres are slightly darker, and the sort of pupil of the eye is more of the smaller one as seen on the Dead Planet Dalek and the Saucer Commander Dalek from the History of the Dalek set. So it's got the smaller pupil. And the Chase Guard Dalek figure is Very cool actually, because it basically is an amalgamation of the Mechanist Dalek paint app, so it's got that silver blue tinge to it, and that's been added to the gun and the plunger, and the eye stalk's been given a bit of a blue. So taking a look at the history of a Dalek set for the Chase. So the Chase Dalek figure is basically the one seen in the Chase set, but now with the power of a Dalek's dome, with the correct dome lights, and of course the correct sort of number of rings on the eye stalk, and given the smaller pupil as seen on the Dead Planet and Saucer Commander Dalek. For the Chase Guard Dalek figure is essentially a sort of an amalgamation of the two versions. So it's essentially the Mechanist Dalek sort of body colour scheme, but more sort of silvery blue, and again that's been applied to the plunger and gun, so it's basically that. And the final set is the History of a Dalek set 4, which is the Daleks Master Plan one, with obviously the Pyroflame Dalek, which I believe has been given the correct sort of basically the power of a Dalek's dome lights and sort of eye stalk, so it uses the power of a Dalek's head sculpt, and obviously it's the sort of standard Pyroflame as seen on the Forbidden Planet release. And then of course we have a highly anticipated release, which is the Supreme Dalek. The eye stalk seems to be slightly different on this, and they've given it the smaller pupil. I personally would have liked to have seen the sort of Mutations of Time Dalek, that sort of red and blue Dalek. That would have been very cool to have seen. You know, they could have included the standard sort of black and blue Dalek in the Chase set, and then include the sort of Mutations of Time Dalek in the Daleks Master Plan set, because I think that would have been very cool to have that red and blue Dalek Supreme. Hopefully they still release that. They could do that for a B&M Big Finish Dalek set possibly, because it does appear on sort of the Brotherhood of the Daleks cover, so that would be cool to see that be released. So taking a look at the History of the Dalek set 4, the Dalek Master Plan set. So if we break down the elements now, so if we take a look at the Pyroflame Dalek, so the only difference with the Pyroflame Dalek is it's been given the power of the Dalek's dome light and the eye stalk, which is correct compared to the original release, what we use of the Chase Dalek figure head sculpt, and I believe that's the only real difference for that. So if we take a look at the Supreme now, the Supreme has been given a slightly different eye stalk. As you can see, it's got completely silver, but with the top half of the eye stalk being painted black, whereas this eye stalk I believe is more accurate with obviously the black and silver bit there, and obviously it's been given the smaller pupil, much like the Dead Planet and Saucer Commander Dalek. These are my thoughts on the Doctor Who B&M revised set, what will be launched on the 5th of October 2020, again priced at £19.99. Overall, what do I think of it? I think that it's quite a nice little revised wave, some nice little new variants of the companions of the 4th Doctor, and I feel like the Terror of the Zygons 4th Doctor is going to be great. You know, the 5th Doctor Tardis is going to be great, but I feel a little bit disappointed by the Dalek sets personally, maybe because I already have the originals and I would hope for something a little bit different, you know, like the Chase Daleks, you know, to have maybe the seismic detector, that kind of thing. That would have been lovely to have seen them do that. You know, I would have liked to have seen the red and blue sort of Supreme Dalek as seen on the Mutations of Time cover, which would be great to have seen, which would be great to see be released. But obviously if you missed out on the Toys R Us Master Plan set, then it would be a great way to get that Dalek. I probably will end up getting the Master Plan set because I'm a bit of a completist. And obviously the 13th Doctor set, I would have liked to have seen possibly Sacha Dhawan's Master. You know, that would have been very cool to have had that in there. I feel like that would have made that set even more desirable. But the Graham is a great little retweak of and repaint of the original Graham, so I definitely still pick up that set as well. So fingers crossed I can track all of them down, and obviously when I do track them down I will be doing reviews of them as well. So that concludes this video. I hope you have enjoyed it, and I'll see you in my next video, whatever that will be. So thank you very much and goodbye.